Hi and welcome to today's live chapter reading of Luce, Eterna, Part 1 by S.J. Molloy. Chapter 1, Little Ones. Lexi. How can life change in a heartbeat? It's only been 4 weeks since the twins were born prematurely. 4 weeks of unconditional love and tender warmth. 4 weeks of abundant stress and anxious desperation. 4 weeks of nurturing and healing and devotion. 4 weeks of awe-inspired breaths and heart-pinching tears. 4 weeks of wonder and fulfillment like we've never felt before. It seems as if we've barely blinked and the twins are 1 month old. My tiny babies are here, real-life little ones. Hard to grasp sometimes. Our reality is mixed with serene gratitude and painstaking fear. It's never left us, the dark edge of reason and terror. Every smiling moment, every cherished minute, and every precious second is replaced by constant worry. I wonder if time will always go by this quickly, and I wonder if, as a parent, we will always be this nervous. My head is a whirl. We question everything we're doing. We second-guess every decision we make and are constantly fighting doubt. Not so much with each other, but as individuals. We're both learning and both having to adapt. It's a role neither of us have done before, and one that no matter how much time we've spent looking after our nieces and nephews, nothing has prepared us. We only want to do the best we can. At times, Luca shows more confidence than I do. Then I experience this horrible tug of guilt in my stomach. I feel as if I'm not good enough, and that I can't do it, and I won't manage. However, as life is so hectic, I haven't had the luxury to excessively ponder, as time is of the essence. Luca normally centres me. Then we move quickly on to the next task or trial, and I handle it more naturally. It is then Luca who doubts himself. He doesn't admit it, but I know. Even if it's a split second where I catch his eyes, I know he feels guilty too. By the time I remember to ask if he's okay, we're moving on to the next challenge. Time must have stood still before. Now it seems like there isn't enough of it. I didn't even know what we did with our time before now. Everyone tells us that we need to cherish these moments and that children grow up far too quickly. Mum reminds me not to wish they were bigger or older, as that will come and we'll be wishing they were still young and small. My only wish is for their good health and their safety. I'm cherishing every second that passes and every breath they inhale. But I pray for it all. When the guilt creeps in and refuses to budge, I feel as if I'm failing as a mother. I want to do more and I need to do more. This impatient need to foster infinite love and care has never felt so strong. It still feels surreal that they're here, alive, and doing much better with ill health than in the first 4 weeks of arriving. Every day my beautiful babies amaze me more than they ever did the day before, and I've never felt love like it. I love Luca with every beat of my heart, and of course my family and friends, but this is a fierce love. A love so powerful and great, it's like a renewed force pulsing through my veins. I'm besotted and I'll never tire of this innate adoration that I have for them. I'm in enraptured love. I thought I knew love before. I didn't, well, not like this anyway. They're both little miracles and my heart hasn't stopped swelling since the moment they were placed in my arms. I now understand my mum so much more, and the love I feel for her has multiplied by 1,000,000,000. Hey sweetheart, leave some milk for your brother. Luca coos at our little princess as I breastfeed her. Have you seen the size of them? I think there's plenty of milk left in here for Luciano and the rest of the sick baby ward. I stroke her little cheek with the back of my fingers and think of her identical brother lying in his open incubator, still in the hospital where he's being monitored. Smiling earnestly, I recall his last feed and how much he's trying to catch up with his sister. Sitting on the edge of the hotel's king-size bed, Luca kisses below my ears. He curls an affectionate arm round me while protectively placing his hand over Alessia's head as she suckles at my breast. I giggle, watch her fluttering her long eyelashes, her little lips sweetly suckling as she makes tiny, girly nuzzle noises. It fascinates Luca when I feed our newborns. Everything about them fascinates him. He simply can't take his eyes off them. Or me. His eyes will meet mine with unfettered love, making me feel adored and content. especially during my periods of uncertainty. But when I catch the pain in his eyes, I know he's heartbroken when reliving the past. He wants to take it all away, and he can't control it any more than I can. Luca's protective eyes, brimming with sadness and concern, remind me. Then I have to look away. It pinches at my heart, and it needs to be whole for my babies. His expressions aren't always torn. I love the serene glimmer illuminating his eyes when he admires the twins with fondness, though I'd love the carefree sparkle to be there all the time. The marl of regret and fear often ghosts him when he looks at me. I wonder if I remind him of the ugly. If I'm ugly. If all he sees when he looks at me is the dark and ugly times he was unable to protect me from. He's trying hard, but it's hurting him. He's been patient and attentive, but when he's quiet and contemplative, that's when I catch him staring at me as if it's broken me. He's inwardly struggling, and that's when my throat constricts and my stomach knots. Despite our recent traumas, before, during and after the delivery of our twins, this really should be a magical time for us. But it's hard. I just wish Luca didn't feel so guilty, and I wasn't untired and doubtful, so I could appreciate everything with much more clarity. I think I'm still stunned, and Luca and I are both coasting. I admire my daughter as she feeds. Alessia only stayed in her incubator for 1 week after her birth, then was placed in an open-top crib, still with a nasal and feeding tube. My milk fully came in around day 5. I kept expressing for them both, even though I was exhausted, sore and agitated. Looking back, that was a challenging few days. I don't know how I managed, but I did, somehow. I had many teary moments trying to get the knack of it, often feeling like a failure. Karen, my breastfeeding nurse, had been amazing and ever so patient with me. She always stays late after her shift finishes in the wards, trying to give me sound advice and different tips to try. After another few days of Alessia being in the open-top crib, I was able to feed her on my own, but her feeds were supplemented by her tube to maintain her blood sugars, and she was still very sleepy, so she was falling asleep on the breast. I was so unsure if she had enough or not. At times it was cute, other times it was distressing. I still don't even know if I've mastered that yet. This little miss is using her mama as a comforter, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Not only was I feeding Alessia, but I was expressing for both of them. I fed and pumped in a constant cycle around the clock. The tiredness made me cranky, the pain frustrated me because my movements had been minimal, and on top of that, my C-section wound was inflamed. I needed more antibiotics, and my nipples cracked. But I tried not to complain. We are safe. I have my babies, they are little fighters doing well, and that's all that's important. Michael's dead. He can't touch me, he can't taunt us. I think about my mum and what she endured while being a mother to us, and she had no medical attention or care. My ailments are minuscule and insignificant, but when I think about my inspirational mum, it keeps me focused. But despite me striving for inner strength, the vulnerability and paranoia for their well-being consumes me. Luciano's blood sugars were very low at one point, and his temperature wouldn't regulate. That was extremely stressful because I felt helpless, and Alessia seemed to be thriving while he fought that much harder. It broke my heart, and I felt like I couldn't do enough. He stayed on a ventilator for 9 days after his birth in Level 2, the local neonatal unit, LNU. He was oxygenated by a head box for another week, and then was transferred into an open crib with a nasal tube on week 3. When he became stronger and showed improvements, they moved him to a different unit to be with his sister again, Level 1, the Special Care Baby Unit, SBCU. This means we're closer to getting him home. In the past week I've been feeding him myself, but he has been supplemented with my express milk through his gastric tube as well. As soon as Alessia was feeding solely on the breast, putting weight on, and her stats were looking good, we were told she could go home. Talk about a moral dilemma. That immensely upset me. I desperately wanted to go home, but I wasn't prepared to leave Luciano alone, especially as I needed to be there to feed him. He's so small and helpless, and that he needs me. I was hopeful and relieved that he got moved to Level 1, where they assured me he'd still have constant care, but it does mean he's no longer at high risk. I despise that word. And this is not a private hospital with an available suite. We had no choice but to reluctantly leave Luciano in the capable hands of the neonatal staff, who'd been like our family over the last 3 weeks. It crippled us both having to do that. No parent wants to leave their vulnerable newborn baby. We assumed we'd be leaving with both babies together. It seemed as if God hadn't finished testing us. Luca looked into transferring us to another hospital so we could all be together. But here in Scotland that hasn't been possible. If we were in Tuscany, it would have been a different experience. It crushed my heart and I told Luca I wasn't leaving my son. So instead of going home, he booked us into a huge hotel suite across the street from the hospital so we can be there on demand. Although we can no longer sleep in the side room we had before, we can access the unit. We stay in the hospital where I can watch over my boy, feed both of them, express milk, and then lifelessly go back to the hotel with Alessia, wash, rest and repeat. Although she does seem to be quite fond of these, she's going to have to learn to share. I think she's on a little growth spurt or something since getting the knack of it. I honestly can't believe how much she's feeding today. I lovingly gazed down at Alessia. Good, I'm thrilled that our little miracles are growing and nurturing all because of their wonderful, precious mama. I can't believe how clever they are, how amazing you are. You've done so well with everything, juggling it all and persevering. The feeding, expressing, kangaroo care and constant attention you're giving them. I know it's tiring, baby, I know. But I also know you're more settled and content now they're feeding better. You're not as tense, and that makes me happier. I'm so proud of all three of you. I love you all so very much. Luca kisses my temple before kissing Alessia's cheek. Warmth and exhilaration spreads through me, making my heart feel full and limbs feel light. It's the simplicity of contentment. I feel blanketed in it in this precise moment, one of our nicer moments. Thank you. It's not easy. I'm not going to lie. I just want to give them so much love and care and the best start possible. Sometimes I feel as if I could smother them with love, and it still wouldn't be enough. I rub the soles of Alessia's tiny feet. A warm smile stretches my lips. And you're doing not too bad yourself, Romeo. You're caring for them just as much as me, and not the feeding part, but everything else. We're sharing. You're a fantastic papa. I'm so grateful you're here and able to help me. We love you so very much too. My heart feels so tender in my chest that I'm sure Luca senses my raw sincerity. I gaze up into his shimmering eyes to exchange a calming moment. His tenderness drowns me with infinite adoration and pride. I like these looks far more than his forlorn angst. My lashes gently flutter as I hold her gaze, and I soften my eyes as I bathe in his admiration. Our prolonged exchange reflects the overwhelming mirth and joyous feelings we have for one another, and I like it a whole lot. It reassures me I'm not ugly or dark or broken. I'm free and his and theirs, and that's liberating. I want to tell him. I know, I feel the same. But I don't need to. He understands because he's immersed in my display of emotions while nodding his head. Silently I tell him I love him. Silently he tells me I'm his world. Silently we thank one another. After a moment we break eye contact, when Alessia pulls away from my nipple. Luca wipes a tear escaping my eyes, and then we smile at the sleepy expression on our girl's face as she tries to nuzzle again. I tend to her as she latches back on. Luca stifles a long yawn as his fingers weave through my hair. Do you want to sleep a little? I ask. No, hell no, I want to help you and get you back to Luciano as soon as possible. Thank you. Always, never thank me for being your fiancé and their papa. This is what I want and what I was meant to do. What I need to do. He swallows another yawn with a smile and the rise of his chest. He's exhausted, but he's fighting it. Like me, like his son in the SBCU, and his baby girl in my arms. I stroke his stubbly jaw with an appreciative smile in return.